So that records the sound separately?
Yes, no, yes, separately, but let's see. Maybe the sound may be good that place.
And we speak at the camera or we speak together?
Anyway, whatever you want. I can sometimes look, but I will stick. Let me introduce you, Alexandre Terrien. Terrien. What's the right way to say in French? Terrien.
Terrien.
It's beautiful, man. It's amazing. You know, Alex was my partner at Singularity, and it's interesting because Alex was the guy that used it to do all the pitches for our company. And when I say this to people in Brazil, they get impressed because they think, "Come on, why you didn't pitch? You are the guy that talks, blah 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 blah."
I mean, that's true.
No, but I have this is a first insight. Like, it's not because I am a comedian that I have to always. It's not because someone is the communication guy that he needs to do the pitch. I mean, the pitch should be done with who has more credibility. You know, I mean, I believe you have more. You're French, you know. French is like.
No, I don't think that has anything to do with it.
I think all the French people should do the pitching.
No, no, for sure not. It doesn't have anything to do with it. But I think there's so first of all, it was teamwork, right? I mean, you and I worked very, very closely to build the pitch, to design it. We practiced it a lot. You gave me a lot of tips, you know, and kind of coaching to make sure that it was exactly where we wanted it to be. So I think that's the first thing. And then I think in the context in which we were, it really depends on the context in which we were, right? Like, if we were in Brazil, I would never do the pitch, you know. Like, in the context in which we were, I think it was probably a good move for either me, or it could have been someone like Susan, another one of our partners, you know, who could have executed that pitch. But I think the person, it's not because I'm French, you know. It's just I know, but it's. You know, it really depends on the context in which you are, and you want someone who's presenting, who's not necessarily the communications brain, which I think you were, you know, really designing what the pitch was, but who's very good at executing the pitch.
Perfect. Right? Amazing. And at Singularity, our company, our pitch, we got a lot of good feedbacks. I mean, we had the startup weekend stuff and the presentation in San Francisco, and our pitch was always like the most interesting. And why do you believe that we had this kind of different pitch? I mean, what was what we did different from the others?
Well, it's a big question.
It's a big question.
Maybe we can, you know, let's split the question into parts, maybe. But I think that the key word is what you said. It was different, right? So most other pitches follow a kind of standard, what you would expect from a pitch, right?
Yeah.
Here's our product. Here's the features from the product.
The problem.
Here's
the solution, the product, the features, and the
features.
Team.
Here's the business model. Here's the team. Vote for us. You know, whatever. Follows the same journey, and everyone does the same thing. And I think one of the things that we worked on very thoughtfully is, you know, designing something that was really different. It was different in the way that we delivered it. It was different in the structure and the flow, right? It was different in the way that we were creating emotional responses from people in the audience. We thought about that, right? The emotional curves. It was different in the visuals. It was very, you know, it moved at the right time. It didn't move for no reason. So everything that we thought of was different. And I think that's the key. As a whole, it then really, really stood out.
For instance, I remember that we started with the team, remember? Yeah. And this is like totally the opposite of the pattern, of the pitch patterns. That usually the teams do that stuff.
Exactly.
And then it's always interesting to like understand the pattern. You can even write what is the pattern and just ask your team, how can we break this? How can we do different from the pattern? You must always understand the pattern. Some people want to innovate, to do different without even understanding perfectly what are you breaking.
Exactly. And I think you don't, the key thing here is, I think you don't have to reinvent the entire reel, right? You don't need to do everything different. But as you say, for example, if you write the patterns, like here are the 5 main elements, and here's the order in which they are usually presented. Just switching the order, that's a first step. That's different, you know? And that's already different than what most people do.
And as you said, depends a lot in the context, because like if you're doing a single presentation to an investor, like in a meeting like this, that's the situation. If you're participating in this startup weekend or the speeching conference, it's totally different, because you have to think in the context that before you, there are going to be a lot of other companies pitching. So you have to kind of imagine that, what are they going to do and how can I be different? Because this same changing order stuff is more important in a startup weekend event than in a single presentation to an investor. Because then you have to, and I believe that you have to have even the ability to change your strategy during, if you're watching the pitches and you see something happening, a pattern being constructed, you must be able to even change your strategy and just
which we did, remember?
Which you did, yes.
We would sit down, we never went first.
Yeah.
We would sit down at the back of the room, look at all of the pictures, all of the people who went on stage, take notes, and after every speech we would talk, and then we would rearrange, you know? It was very interesting.
A lot of people at this moment, they are focusing on their pitch, practicing, and they forget to watch what's happening. And comedy, it's a lot, this is something that comedians are very used to watch what's happening, so you can do a callback, you can. And okay, and what about
just on your point? I think it's worth saying that you said a lot of people, you know, in that moment before the speech, they're very focused. They just are rehearsing their talk, and so they're not able to look at the environment, right?
Yeah.
So I think the key here is remembering how important it is to practice beforehand, right? Because it'll be very difficult for you to deliver a outstanding talk, speech, pitch, whatever it is, if you are just getting prepared right before. But if you're very relaxed and you're able to say callbacks, say jokes, think about your strategy, etc., because you know that you have your speech nailed, you know exactly what you're going to say, then that's really, really important.
You have your platform, very strong, and then you can innovate. It's very difficult to do different when you are not 100% confident about the basic stuff. And I have this memory very clear of you in the parking lot, Singularity, walking like a crazy guy in circle, just practice again and practice again. And it's interesting because some people say, no, I've practiced it 3 times. No, 30 times.
Yeah.
It's not, when you start practicing and you think it's okay, you do 10 times more.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the excellence. That's how you get, that's the way I believe Steve Jobs used to do, you know?
Which we know he did. We know that's how he did it. And I think it's the same thing for us. I mean, you even told me we wrote the whole pitch out. I would go to the parking lot, walk around, practice every time, more and more, practice it until I didn't need ever to look at the paper again. Then you keep practicing, and then I came back and I was like, all right, I got it, and you told me go back. And I went back and practiced again, practiced again.
A personal trainer that says that when you start sweating, that's when you start burning.
Yeah.
You can't I just started sweating, now I'm over. No. Now you're in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, now you keep doing. This is the point where differentiate the adults and the children. You know, that's an expression.
Sure. No? We get it.
This is the moment that makes the difference. When you start sweating and then you keep going. Keep going.
But I think it's very, very important in the context of a talk or a pitch or whatever, because you want that to be the case 2 days before your pitch. You know, at least 24 hours before your pitch. You want to have it completely nailed. Then you have a night, you sleep on it, your brain keeps working, you keep integrating it, and then you get to the next day, maybe in the morning, you rehearse a bit again, but you get to the next day, you know what you're saying, you know very well. And so you can be in the room, you can observe, you can think about the dynamics, you can take notes, do recalls on jokes or moments or whatever, but in order to do that, you need to come that day with the perfect knowledge of what you're going to say.
Perfect. And I remember another stuff that another exercise we did, and this was not for the pit, it was for the whole company we are building, the why exercise.
Right.
The Simon Sinek stuff. About people usually get focused on the how, right? On the what.
Yeah, so I think we talked initially about like the steps that people generally goes through in their pitch. So it's like, here's what we do, here's how we do it, etc. And Simon Sinek has this very worthwhile TED talk that I think everyone should watch if you're looking to pitch something, about how the greatest companies in the world communicate, right? Companies like Apple. And what they do is, instead of starting by the product or their features, right, what they do or how they do it, they start with why they do it, right? That's the fundamental purpose. What touches human beings is why you do it, and you want to start communicating with that. And then there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, right? So today we see a lot of people start with stories, right? We've talked about that a lot. Yeah. That's one way. You start with a story, one character, you can maybe identify with them or whatnot, and that's the character who's your user, for example. But it could be other ways to touch that emotion, right? But I think the key is to remember that you need to start the way that you're communicating by touching people with the fundamental reasons, not what we're doing or how we're doing it, but why you're doing it.
This storytelling topic is very interesting because people talk a lot about storytelling, and people sometimes misunderstand because people believe that using storytelling is only to having a character and this character has a name, and I believe that this is not the only way to have storytelling. Right. Storytelling is like developing a story, a talk where you have this roller coaster of emotions. That's the hero's journey. It's a roller coaster, right? Roller coaster. Sure, yeah. Of emotions. So you have to, and then move, So it's more like the arc, the dramatic arc of the story. Yeah. Not necessarily to have a character, not necessarily, oh, let's meet John. Imagine, it's good. You can do it, and we did this. And we were very successful doing this, having a character, but every time something gets very popular, and everybody does, then you have to think again. Exactly. Because now we have to, innovation is this. It's not enough to innovate once, because then everybody goes the same. And
then people will keep getting better, and if you stay there,
and then you have to jump again. And we added another level to this storytelling character part, because we did the scene, the action, we did like a theater.
Yeah. But I think that the way, so just to explain what he's referring to here, we demonstrated our product with a little, with a theater scene, effectively, right? So I was initially talking on stage, and then the three other team members came on stage, and we acted something out that demonstrated the product.
Use cases of the product.
A use case, right? As if we didn't have a video, we didn't have time to make it. Mm-hmm. And so instead of making that, we made this little demonstration.
And it was even better. Maybe even if we could make a video,
we would not have
made
better.
It. Sure. To do it like this.
But I think the important thing here is again, maybe you do the theater thing, maybe you don't do it, but we did it because we were thinking about the arc of emotions that people go through, right? And so you take people on this adventure, this emotional adventure, when you're pitching to them, when you're telling a story, and you have to understand how is what you're saying, how are they reacting to it? It's not about what you're saying, it's about how do people react to what you're saying. If you can understand exactly the emotion that you're creating in them, is it stress, is it anxiety, is it excitement, is it joy, is it a laugh, whatever it is, then you can create the next reaction, right? And the next reaction is what's important. So for us, this theater scene served as one way to keep creating the particular curve of emotion that we wanted to create, and there were other means, but that's the key, I think, is thinking about, in the storytelling, is thinking about this curve of emotion that we talked about.
And everyone has his own method, like for instance, I never write down everything I'm supposed to say. I kind of put topics, but your method I saw was like, you like to write down everything you're supposed to say. Of course, you're not gonna say exactly like that, but I mean...
But that's just to learn, right? When we talked about practice earlier, different people learn differently.
Yeah, sure.
My technique effectively was to write down exactly what I wanted to say, and then learn it so well that I don't have to say that exactly anymore. Perfect. But I know exactly what's coming after. You know what I mean?
And you know what? That I've never done that, but after you did it, I saw you doing this. I did this 20 minutes talk, not a pizza talk, in Pablo's event in Argentina. It was in English, and that talk I decided to write everything down.
How'd that go?
It was amazing, and you know what happened? After I was checking, and I just changed like 3 words in a 20 minutes talk.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, for me, it really helps me memorize, and then because you know that you have it so well inside you, you can feel free to change whatever you want.
You can play.
Exactly, you can play. Because the base is strong.
Confidence. What about visual aids? About PowerPoint, keynotes, blah blah blah. People misuse a lot. I mean, people.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different things to discuss. This could be a whole kind of topic in and of itself, but one is, you know, when you show slides, you don't want people to spend time looking at the slide. You're still talking, right? And so you want people to look at you and listen to you. And the slide is only a support slide for what you're saying. But very, very often people would put up a slide and maybe there's a lot of writing, maybe there's something that's distracting, maybe there's a complicated graphic or a framework or whatever it is. And so instead of listening, suddenly everyone's attention turns to the slide and they just look at the slide and they kind of forget what you're talking about. And for a few seconds you go blank in their minds. They're just looking at the slide. Perfect. That's very dangerous. So I think the first thing is you want to make sure that your slides are always working for you, not for them.
Yes.
Right?
Perfect.
So the second point to that is visually the slide needs to be compelling but not complicated. Right? So using beautiful imagery. Right? I see a lot of even entrepreneurs and stuff using maybe imagery that's not high quality in their slides. Like, it's okay, but if you see a slide where you see the pixels, it's not going to be very compelling. So I remember we even bought imagery, right? High quality imagery. It's not that expensive. It's maybe €4 or €5 per image. I can't remember. But I think it makes a difference when you see a slide and it's beautiful. It makes a difference, right? It really serves you.
A lot of people, they just Google image and the first image they see, they put, and then you can. I have a lot of times saw like different presentations with the same image. That's very common. You know, the one is very common. I don't know for you if it's, you know, the 2 fish tanks, and there's a fish jumping. Have you seen that? I've seen a lot. This image a lot. I have even used this a lot of some time ago. Yes, I assume. But the image, and do you know what makes me identify quickly if the presenter is a professional, if he's really confident? It's very simple. The difference is if the presenter he changes the slide, and then after the changing he starts talking about what appeared or the way you did. While you were talking, it appears. Did you see the difference? It's a little different, but this makes so beautiful, you know, because sometimes it seems like he clicks and he sees, and then it seems like the slides are like he's guiding him. And I believe the beautiful way is like you were talking and you need to be so confident that you could even do your pitch without the slides.
Yeah, of course.
That's a good trick to practice. Do you really depends? I do, like when you do 1 hour talk, of course the slides help to guide you sometimes. But come on, 5 minutes pitch. Yeah. But I think it's important. So so we've talked very briefly about slide design, and there's a lot of resources to figure out like how to design beautiful slides, and I think that's an important thing. And slides that work for you, not that take attention away from you. I think the other part about slides is this thing about when does the slide change and when does it move, and how does that work for you again, right? So many times people will create an animation on a slide that has no purpose. If the animation has no purpose, don't put an animation. Right? Only create animations that work for you. And so I think in our slides we spend a lot of time figuring out how does this particular animation or movement in the slide reinforce what we're saying, and does it make sense? And we only did it if it reinforced what we're saying. And then in the delivery, you're right, when something changes, it needs to feel very fluid, very natural.
right? So it can't interrupt what you're saying. That's again, sometimes when the slide work against you, the slides interrupt what you're saying.
Yeah.
That can't be possible, right? You're still talking. You need to be talking to the audience. You want the audience to listen to you. And if suddenly you stop talking, you change the slide, everyone looks at the slide, right? But you want people to look at you, right? So that's the key thing is the slide needs to continuously flow exactly what you're saying. So the way that we practiced it is we knew exactly on which word the slide would change. And in our text, we wrote out the text in black, and every word that had a slide change was red.
Yes.
Right? And so I knew when I was practicing, I'd practice with the remote control, and every red word, boom. And so I started noticing the red words, just the pattern again, right? You identify them, you remember them. And so every red word, you know exactly what you're changing. And then you can just say your thing, and you're changing with the remote control on the side here, so no one knows that you're changing. And automatically the slide goes
This is something that is, I believe it's a rookie mistake. Some people, they seem like dumb, like they click like, you need to click like this, come on. You can click, I mean, I like to do this kind of magician stuff, like misdirection, like if you have the clicker here, and you can be talking like this, and then you can even do, if you want to change the slides, you can do like this, and you click here, so everybody looks to this hand.
There's nothing.
This is like magician trick, misdirection. This is beautiful, you don't have to do like this. Some people, come on, before the presentation, take some attention to see where's the next button. And never watch it, never look to it anymore. It seems like you were like, you know, like grandmother, like look, clicking, you know. And people do like this, you know, you just click, you know, be French, you know.
I don't know if it's French, but I think you're right in saying be confident, right? Like you have to. So, and that starts with what we said at the beginning, which is rehearsing, right? These are the basics that a lot of people forget. Rehearse so that you know exactly what you're saying, and then you can start being very confident in what you're doing, which I think is where you want to be when you're presenting.
And another strategy that I'm not sure if we used, maybe because it was necessary, but how can you kill some basic objections? You know, like maybe what will be doing an empathy exercise. Like, if it were you in the audience, listen to this guy talking this stuff, and you have never seen this guy, never heard about what he's saying, what would be the basic objections that people would be, that's empathy exercise, would be thinking, and try to, once you identify the one or two basic, try to, in simple sentences, try to kill. You can even do like this. I know that you can even do like explicit, like, I know that when I talk about this, people usually think, oh, you're killing the objection. You were saying exactly what some people may be thinking, and then you're killing. Because sometimes, because of a dumb objection, a basic stuff, you have this incredible technology, incredible stuff, but just because an idiot objection, people get shut down from your idea. They just block because, you know, it's a path that if they do a little this, and you do that, but you just disconnected from that. So I believe we didn't use that because it wasn't necessary. But do you understand, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's two ways to do that. One is, as you're talking about, in the speech itself, you know, understanding exactly what people are going to think about it, and how you can, as you're building your talk, react to it, even if it doesn't need to be a long response to that particular point. It doesn't need to be like, if someone asked you that question, you'd probably give like a 3-minute response to that question. It just needs to be a little sentence to show that you've thought about it. That's it.
That's
right?
That's
you just need to show that you've thought about this point, and then maybe later people will ask you more questions, but at least you've addressed it. Right? So it's about transparency, right? Like being able to show that you've also thought about this, you also know it may be a risk, but you have an answer. So that's the first thing, is in your talk. And then I think for once you get very comfortable, it's interesting to think about, what do you not say in your talk that you leave for questions? Right? Because you know that you're going to get questions after. And so I think you can be intentional about not saying some of the maybe even more obvious things in your talk that you would usually, I have to say that. Well, no. If you know that people are going to ask a question about it, leave it for the question.
It's like the magician, how do you say, the card in the, when the magician leaves a card in the, how do you say this?
In the sleeve.
In the sleeve, you keep never, and you keep a card in the sleeve, like something that you have a brilliant answer, and you purposely not say, but then they question and you boom.
Exactly. Because it's important to remember, like in pitches and in talks, it's maybe the same thing. Like the talk itself is one part of it. The questions are just as important.
Yes.
Right? If you nail your pitch, but you suck at the questions, people are going to remember that you suck at the questions. Right? So you need to really think about what questions you're going to get, how to answer them, and be very good at the questions itself. Right?
Amazing. Something else we remember that we should, I mean, of course
there's a lot
hundreds of stuff, but is there any quick stuff that we may forgot, like the planning, the rehearsal, the visual aids, the presenting, the
I think one last thing is a lot of people try to do pitches with two people, and it's very difficult. Very difficult.
We
right?
even thought about this, I believe.
We did, yeah.
But
so you can do it. I think it's, in fact, we did one later with Lou, which was very good with two people. But Lou is another person I worked with at Singularity. But I think, again, if you're going to do something with two people, which can be valuable, particularly if you have two different personalities on stage, or a guy and a girl or whatever, practice even more. Right? It's even more complicated. Yeah, it's exponentially more complicated. There are so many more factors that can go wrong in the coordination, in the slides, and everything. So be first very comfortable with doing with one person, and choose who in your group and your company, etc., needs to be that person. And then later, if you feel very good about it, you can move to two if you feel very confident and rehearsed.
And interesting, because some people decide to do in a couple because they're not confident enough.
Yeah,
so that's the opposite.
Right. Yeah, that's the opposite.
You can't do because you're, I'm not confident, so do with me, and then we go. So we split the responsibility. No, this is gonna not work.
It's gonna fail.
It's gonna fail. It's the opposite. You have to be so confident that you can add another people, and then you rehearse a lot, and it's very difficult. That's it, baby. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a lot of more to talk about this, but I believe we had interesting insights in this talk. Thank you very much.
Thanks.